Welcome back to the She Shed. Today's tutorial is going to be on how to make a cushion cover. So this is one of my small cushions and I use two different colours to make my cushion. So one colour for the back, one colour for the front, and I place 3 buttons. These are my homemade buttons, handmade from our eucalyptus tree, and I don't even need a buttonhole. I just make sure my button is big enough to be able to fit through like so. And you do want it reasonably tight, there we go, so it doesn't come undone. There we are. So what will we need for this project? You can use any yarn as long as you've got the yarn with the matching hook for the size of the yarn. You can do it to any size cushion. I do 3 sizes. This is my small. We are going to do a medium and I also do a large. And it's very simple because it just means measuring to your cushion and you work to your cushion. So what will you need? Well, you'll need your cushion insert. As I said, I'm going to do a medium for this one. And you'll need a hook that matches your yarn. And the yarn I am going to be using is this one. It is a pure wool yarn. It is a single ply, so you have to be quite careful that you don't tug too hard because it can come apart. It is saying it needs a 6.5mm hook and I use a 7. I normally go up a hook size, but I don't have a 7.5, so I'm going to go a 7. And I am using a contrasting colour. Well, it's not that contrasting, this is still the same, but it's what I've got. So when I do my cushions, I normally just use what I've got available and I like the look of. Because this is wool and it's super soft, I mean, it's got such a lovely feel. It's really lovely. So how many balls you use will depend on your size of the wool, the size of the cushion, and yeah, so I've got more balls of this one, so I will be using this one for the back. So the back going around, flipping over to the front, because I've got more wool to do that. And then the grey, I've got less yarn of the grey, so I'm going to use that for the front. Because I never know how much I'm going to require, I always try and have at least 3 balls for the front and 4 for the back when I'm doing a medium cushion, and my small cushion I normally do 1 ball less. It is quite hard to tell you how many that you need because trial and error, and it depends on the size of your yarn. You'll also need your scissors, your yarn needle, and of course your buttons. Alright, so let's get started with this project. So the first thing you'll need to do is get your cushion, get your ball of yarn that you're going to be using, leave a tail long enough on my cushion, slightly longer than the cushion itself, because this tail is what I'm going to be sewing up one of the sides. And then, now I know that, I'm going to put in a slip knot. I will be chaining as many chains as are required to fit along the bottom of the cushion. Now I don't just measure the bottom of the cushion, I also measure the middle as well, so that I have it generally the right width all the way along. Now it doesn't matter if you've got it slightly tight, it will actually make a better fitting for your cushion insert when you sew this up, but it does matter if you make it too loose, because then the cushion's not going to fit nicely into it, flop around, and it's not going to have a nice finish. So grab your cushion when you think you've chained enough, measure the bottom, and I've got way too many, so adjust your chain. I think I've still got too many. go, and then I go down the middle. I feel I've got a bit too many. I do stretch it a little bit, okay, so I give it a little stretch, because that's what's going to happen when you want to put it in. You want a little stretch so that it fits tightly, but you don't want to make it too stretchy. So there's a nice fine balance. I think I'll do one less. I think I've got it there. Yeah. Okay. So this is where the simple part comes in. We are working this entire cushion in half double crochet. So what you will need to do is chain 1, and we are going to be working in the back of the stitch. So you can see that the front of the stitch is the V, and then the back of the stitch is the little lump, and that's where we'll be working our stitches into. So to do a half double crochet, yarn over, so remember to turn your stitch over, yarn over, go into that loop on the back, grab your yarn, pull it through, yarn over and pull through the 3 loops on the hook. Again, yarn over into the back of the stitch, grab a yarn, pull it through, yarn over, pull through the 3 on the hook. Again, yarn over into the back of the stitch, grab a yarn, pull it through, yarn over, pull through the 3 on the hook. Okay, so I'm going to leave you to finish this row, and I'll meet you back here at the end of that row. At the end of your row, just at this point, double check that it's fitting nicely over your cushion and it's still not too tight, that's doing all right. Just check the length at the end. Yep, I'm good with that, so I'm really happy with that, so I'm going to continue. So we are now going to chain 1, big tail in the way, there we go, chain 1, turn, and then you're going to continue your half double crochet along this row and every single row until you feel that it is long enough to cover the front of your cushion. How many rows this will be, I cannot tell you. It depends on your cushion size and it depends on the yarn that you're using. So we're going to now do from the bottom and measure up, keep doing your rows all the way up and measure up until you get to the very top. So you're going from one edge to the bottom edge, and once you feel that that is fitting nicely, that is where we will come back to this and I'll show you about changing over color and what we do then. So continue working your rows until you've got your front panel, and I will meet you back here to continue with the back panel. Alright, I've made my front as long as I think I require, so I've leveled this seam down the bottom and it goes to the seam up the top, stretches quite nicely across and across the other way. I want a nice snug fit. Now also try and make it so that you finish your end at the opposite side of the other tail, so that you are able to sew the opposite side, so you have 2 sewing tails. And then allow enough yarn so you can sew it up later and snip your end off. Don't finish off, we are now changing to the next color. So get your next color. Chain 1 in your new color, turn, and continue going until you have, not only do you have and the same amount of material, the same amount that you crocheted on the front, but you want that and a little extra. Now your little extra is what is going to make the flap over on the front, so that it's going up and over and will button up at the front. So how much you allow depends on what you feel is going to look good. So what I normally do is get my cushion and keep putting it over it and keep making sure that the flap goes over to as far as I would like it. And remember, it's a snug fit, not too tight, not too loose, nice and snug. So keep going with your second colour, and I will meet you back here once you have made your second colour long enough. Remember, it is as long as the front with a little extra. After you have finished making your very long cushion cover, this is where we're going to go and sew it all together. So decide which side is going to be your good side and which side is your bad side, and you want what you perceive to be your bad side on the inside of your cushion cover. So you're going to be sewing it inside out. This is what I think is not my not so good side, and I'm going to be sewing down the sides here. I have checked to see that it fits, and you can see when you line up the bottom and then you turn it over, and you can see that I will now have enough to do my buttons, and my buttons will go 1, 2, 3. So now it's time to sew up my sides, and you will have had one side up here, your tail up here. I bundled it up so I would stop snagging it all the time, and my other one is down the bottom. I find it easiest to start from the bottom one and work your way up, and then you can do the other one and line that up. So what I do, fold it right in half along that seam line there, and I also try and make sure that my side lines up, so where it's a ridge there, I'm doing the ridge to match on the other side, and then I will proceed to sew along the edge. Before you start sewing, I also recommend that you sew in all your tails first as well. So thread your needle, just make sure that you've got it lined up, and I take the tippy top of both sides and sew through. Now I have to be really gentle with this yarn. If I pull too tightly, it will pull apart. And then just sew all the way along. Now we have finished sewing up the sides. Turn your pillow, your cushion cover inside out and put your cushion inside. What we are going to do now is make sure it fits and also line up where the buttons are going to go. It feels like a nice fit. Alright, now you need 3 stitch markers, and what we are going to do is line up where the buttons are going to go and put a stitch marker in where you are happy for them to go. So play around with it, see what you're comfortable with, and I always try and line up the edge of the flappy bit with the edge of the cushion, and I want to go a couple of rows up, get the button and see how it looks if I place it there. Get your stitch marker and there we go. Okay, so you want to line them up as well, so you want to make sure that that's the row that you're going to go on. So line up, and then you know where the next stitch marker is going to go. So I'm going to put that one in there. Okay, so there are my 2 stitch markers lined up on either side, and then I'm going to put the one in the middle. Now a really cool trick is place your fingers on either side, look away and bring your fingers together, and that will always be center. You just naturally will do it. I love the things that nature produces. And there's your 3rd one. And this is where we will sew our buttons on. And there we go, all finished. Well, I hope you have enjoyed that tutorial on this cushion, and I hope that you have fun making your own cushions. If you do make your cushion, I'd love to see a photo, so please feel free to drop me a line, message me, Instagram, lucky_platypus1. I'd love to see what you've been up to. Alright everybody, hopefully I will see you again sometime soon back at the She Shed. Until then, at our next tutorial, see you everybody.